Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. So on today's episode, I have got a lovely guy. I'm going to say this now, Richard. It's Richard Hackforth-Jones, and he's the Product and Operations Director at Sainsbury's Smart Charge. Thank you ever so much for joining me. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Liz. It's great to be on.
So I'm just going to start off by saying we met, and I can't remember when it was now, but I know it was at Move 2024, wasn't it? But we'd been talking since about May last year, and this is the first time we've actually properly had a chance to kind of set the podcast up. But you've just been promoted, which is fantastic. So congratulations on that one as well.
Oh, cheers. Thank you, Liz. I've been a fan of the podcast for a while. Always regular listener, because you always learn new things, get you great guests, and we were chatting a little bit before. Sorry, breaking the fourth wall a bit, but do really enjoy your podcast. It's a really nice listen. Great to be on. I think we were deciding which one of the leadership team would be best suited, and I think I've been the lucky one to get to talk to you today.
Oh, bless you. So you've kind of been in the sector for a little while, haven't you, before you came to Smart Charge? But let's just kind of go back and talk a bit about what you did prior to kind of working for Sainsbury's Smart Charge, and kind of give us a little bit of your background, if you will.
Yeah, so I guess I'm now like a EV charging, e-mobility kind of specialist in the space. But my career originally, I actually trained as a teacher on like this thing called Teach First, taught maths and statistics, which was very useful for building up my confidence, learning a lot about myself. And then I moved actually into digital product management, so running mobile apps really for Accenture, big digital agency, big company. And I first got into EV charging. First got into like the world of mobility / cars about 11 or 12 years ago, working for a big fuels retailer, and then got into EV charging after working on their connected car strategy. So it feels very quaint now, but there it was like SIM cards are going into cars. What does this mean for fueling? And their mobile apps are coming out, and so I worked a lot on that, and then learned a bit more about EVs. There was the Nissan Leaf had just come out, Tesla Model S as well, and there was the first murmurings of electrification in the industry. I then did other product management roles, but then came back to that same fuels retailer and worked on, after they acquired an EV charging company, and was told to kind of make it better, make the customer experience better. The app's bad. You guys know how to build apps, so make it better. But that was 2017, and as you know, like EV charging is a lot more than just an app. It's about how do you communicate to customers, where do you put the things, what power you put them in, what hardware you use, how do you tell customers how to interact. Let alone back then there was CHAdeMO, 43 kilowatt AC, CCS, like all these different types of plugs, etc. So that's where I got interested in EV charging and realized actually it's a nascent industry. It was based on open source, so open standards with like the open charge point protocol and the open charge point interface. And thought, oh, this is going to probably grow. Maybe I should focus my career on it. And that's what I did. So then I consulted a lot on the technology side, with Accenture. I then moved into kind of the more strategy bit of consulting for another consultancy before I worked at JLR, working as the head of charging for the new Jaguar program. I don't know if you've heard about that car. Yeah.
Might have done.
Yeah. I can't say I made it pink, but yeah, that was fun. And before Sainsbury's, then were looking to hire a director of product, so to look after the technology for what was then Sainsbury's EV charging before it got rebranded as Smart Charge. So yeah, that's a bit of a long answer of how I got here, but I'd say my background started in tech and then doubled down in kind of EV, both technology and then business strategy, and now working for an amazing 150 plus year old company that have entered into this market.
And I was going to say, I mean, Sainsbury's as a brand is just so customer focused, isn't it? Um, what was it about Sainsbury's? Because they didn't start the charging. They kind of set up Smart Charge not that long ago, wasn't? Was it about 18 months ago? What was the reason for setting up Smart Charge itself then?
So I'd say my boss, Patrick Dunn, I sit in his broader property and procurement team. And actually, Sainsbury's property team have been looking at EV charging for a really long time. Actually, I kind of talked with them when I was consulting, yeah, probably 5 or 6 years ago, definitely pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
about the opportunities there. So they've been thinking about this for a really long time. It was more of a question of when to go for it. Um, and where kind of Patrick and his team pre me joining came to was that they realized that there was an opportunity to really build a trusted EV charging brand in the UK, leveraging some of the skills that and capabilities that Sainsbury's have. So we already process billions of pounds worth of transactions from a payments perspective. We have a market leading loyalty program in Nectar. We have digital teams that build some of the smart shop app. So we've got those capabilities there, and we also have land. So it was one of those things that kind of came together. The other thing I'd probably say about why Sainsbury's got into EV charging is that we have a fuel station business. We have we call it PFS, a petrol filling station business, and public EV charging is a good hedge against a risk to a business vertical within the Sainsbury's group. And the other reason is that there is a plan for better strategy that Sainsbury's have. They've always been kind of leading in the space of doing good for the environment. We have a goal of being net zero across all our operations by 2035, and we procure a lot of energy too. So there's a lot of capabilities within that property and procurement group that Sainsbury's already had. And actually, it was then just the bits of hardware selection, getting good connections, and there's still a fair amount of work to be done. But some of the more trickier seeming side of EV charging, perhaps on payments stuff, they had the individuals, the capabilities, the teams to get going with that themselves.
And I was going to say, I mean, you've grown so quickly in such a short period of time, haven't you? How many chargers, how many installs are there now across how many sites? Do you know?
So we're at the point of recording, but I don't know when. I can't remember, Liz, when this is going out. So at the point of recording, it's 75 sites, but we're talking in mid-March, with over, I think, about 615 or so bays, ultra rapid bays. So we could charge 615 vehicles simultaneously if we wanted to. We'll have another couple by the end of the month as well, which is really, really exciting. But we have 1,600 sites. That's supermarkets and convenience. I think it's about 600 supermarkets, and longer term, really longer term, all of those are hubs with have hub potential, right? They're destinations with amenities. So we're only really just getting started. But yeah, we've gone from our first proper site, I think, was Harrogate, July 2023. And now we're March in 75.
I mean, that's amazing. Really, to kind of, but like you say, I suppose you're in a very different situation to a lot of charge point operators, because like you said about the fact you've got the sites, so you've got the land, you've got the connections. I'm assuming because you're a big PLC, you can kind of kind of the energy that you need for that site is easier to bring in than it would be for somebody who'd have to actually kind of start from scratch. Has that helped?
Yeah, that like we're already in the process. When we build a store, we're already securing high voltage grid connections because fridges eat up a lot of energy. And one of the initiatives that has been going on over the last decade or so within Sainsbury's has been cost efficiency in terms of energy reduction, energy reuse. So, replacing fridges, looking at how we can, maybe improve the doors so that they don't open as much and that kind of thing that reduces our energy usage. But it then means that actually you've maybe got a good connection that is under capacity from the store. So sometimes we've been able to use that headroom we have to actually move really quickly and put in EV charging and use that excess high power to power EV chargers instead. So it kind of makes sense when you think about it sitting in that broader property space, as you've got all the folks already looking at the price of energy, already buying a lot of energy and trying to make savings in some places. But with that customer focus, we've got this asset now, this good connection, maybe we can use it in different ways.
Especially if it's like you say, underutilized, and you're capitalizing on the fact that you've got the connection there, where a lot of organizations just haven't got that, have they? Really, you are kind of, that's why you must be able to do it so rapidly.
Yeah, in some places, yeah, that's definitely the case. Not all our stores are like that. Yeah, we've definitely got our own good connections as well, specifically for EV. But yeah, in certain regards, we've been able to move quickly that way. The other main reason is we've got a killer team in terms of execute. They're known as the execution team, which sounds a little bit like
Oh my
but
God.
they really deliver. They deliver quickly. They're a smashing team, and the same folks who used to deliver deliver stores. It's ultimately another big project. It's got its own intricacies, securing power, etc. Dealing potentially sometimes with landlords, but it's the same general principles as what we do when we're securing convenience stores, building a new supermarket, etc. But yeah, they're a killer team, I'd say, the execution team. If I
There you
can
go.
use that
What a
term.
name, the execution team. I hope they don't all go around with black hoods on.
No, they don't. They're
Oh,
very friendly. They're very friendly. They're good.
oh,
Um,
fantastic. So I know this might sound a really silly question, but your USP as a brand has actually provided you. So we've got all you talk about. You've got all these wonderful abilities, because of the fact that you've got the land and everything. But your USP as a brand itself, like I said earlier, is so customer focused. Would you say that's put you in a very different place compared to some of the other charge point operators that are coming into, have come into the market and have been there for a while? How does it land with you when you kind of look at sort of like, right, okay, well, this is us and that's them and we're just a bit different?
um, I think I'd say our USP is we really focus on our customers. We listen and learn from them. Um, I think we try and keep things really quite simple, but we've focused on one of our focuses is accessibility and safety. Our chargers should be for everyone. We got big roomy bays and CCTV is covering them all. And those big bays are benefit everybody, not just those with disabilities and mobility requirements, right? I used to work for JLR, try to park a Range Rover, there's an electric one coming out, that's pretty tricky. And so having that extra space is pretty useful. My dad has an electric camper van, and he definitely appreciates the wide bays as well.
Yeah.
So we focus on that. I think I mentioned the execution team, but the quality of our delivery with our bay markings and trying to make it as safe and accessible for everybody. Another thing is that we have a lot of bays, on average about 8 per site. So we don't want to keep customers waiting. And so they'll be able to plug in quickly. And we learned from the initial sites that matters to our customers. And then the other thing is just we have a load of amenities, right? We're one of the second biggest supermarket in the UK. Often we have partnerships with coffee shops as well, with the Starbucks or Costa on site, and you can pick brilliant food as well. We want to be the first choice for food at Sainsbury's, and combined finally with that, we have a market-leading loyalty ecosystem with Nectar, which we've only really just started integrating with. You can get your Nectar points whilst charging with us. And there'll be much more to benefit smart charge customers in the future. So I'd say those are kind of our USP, but really, as you mentioned, we talk to our customers. We want to know what they want, and we want to try and keep it simple. A lot of the feedback we've got has been from people using us as their first time they've charged, and the best feedback we get is, it works and it was straightforward, like brilliant. That's what we're going for. I think maybe others would potentially go for a different market. Maybe being honest, maybe targeting someone like me who's been around the industry for 7 or 8 years and knows all the acronyms and maybe can list out acronyms with numbers on the end and stuff like that. But most people, normal people, they just want to charge. They just want to know it works and they don't want to have to wait. And they want good value, and that's where we're really focusing.
And actually, I always talk about this. We do make things complicated. If you're kind of going from people kind of putting wet fuel in a car, and like you said, you already have fueling, petrol stations, fuel stations, but going to something that's so different, that's got so many different names to it, and the ultra rapid, and like you said, CHAdeMO and CCS, and and actually people just want they just want it to be simple, don't they? I want it to be simple. I don't want it to be complicated, but we have to simplify things for the general public, because if we don't do that, then we won't bring them on board with us, will we?
Yeah, and I think retail's continuing to innovate, but it has also, Sainsbury's has been trading since something like 1869 or something like that, and but people are used to the idea of going in a shop, but people aren't used to the idea of plugging in their car, and so actually we have a duty really, and I say that the royal we as an industry, to make it easy to onboard those customers into that new behaviour of public charging and making it easy for them, because we're kind of setting the standard for that behavioural experience going forward. That I'm sure that there's lots of innovation to come, but our perspective at first is let's keep it simple. Let's make it accessible for everybody getting in their new company car EV that they selected, which is nice and flash, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to do a long journey for the first time. I'll check in the Sainsbury's, and if I need be, that there is actually someone there that can help me. We have colleagues in the store as well that will help them out.
And that's nice, and that's a nice thing to know, isn't it? Rather, there are some charging sites a lot of charging sites actually, where there's nobody there. Where you're kind of, there might be some facilities or whatever. I've been to one where, after a certain time, the shop that's on site shuts, and and there's nobody else to kind of talk to, so you have to rely on making sure that the chargers work, and actually just thinking about your sites. I think it's nice to actually be able to plug in and do something, and just integrating it into your shopping habits or whatever, because that makes it so much easier. And yeah, it takes less time to put wet fuel in a car, but actually you have to stand there and you have to hold the nozzle, and then you've got to stand in the queue or whatever you've got to do. So there's still time in there. So, but actually just being able to use it, tap it, plug in, go and do your shopping. Happy as Larry, me, I tell you.
Yeah, and a lot of the time we talk to customers, they want to grab something to eat, probably a coffee, and use the loo. Like you can do that whilst you're charging, and by the time you've kind of done those things, you've probably put a decent amount of kilowatt hours into your battery. You're talking 15 minutes or so. So it's something we appreciate doing.
You were talking a little bit earlier about Nectar card and kind of integrating that with charging. How does that work? What does somebody get? Is it the same as just when you're doing your shopping? Was that kind of, whose brainchild was it?
So we actually heard that from our customers. A lot of when we launched the brand, a lot of the social commentary is like, when can I get Nectar points? Because you can when you get your petrol and any purchase across Sainsbury's and Argos as well, you can collect Nectar points. So we heard that loud and clear, and leading the product and the technology side of things, we're like, all right, what can we do to enter into that ecosystem with Nectar and make it accessible to customers to begin with. So we were able to deliver that really quite quickly. We've been live with Nectar since I think July last year now, July 24, and you can collect Nectar points with every charge you do with Smart Charge, and that's whether you're paying with debit, credit card, Apple Pay, or even a roaming card as well. You can claim your Nectar points. So the way that works is that we use Kempower charging hardware. You can scan the QR code once you started your charge, and then you'll enter into the Smart Charge kind of experience once you scan the QR code. It'll ask you to enter your Nectar number, and so you can find that either on your physical card or within the Nectar app. Just copy and paste it into there, just the last few digits in there. Tick a box that says remember this phone, and then you'll add your Nectar points to your session. Then the next time you charge with us, you scan the QR code and it will automatically add your points to the session. And once your session ends, you get your points, which is nice. And within that experience as well, you can monitor your charge, see how long the charge is going to take. You also get your receipt through that experience as well, get it emailed to you, which I know that a lot of customers, especially kind of business customers, want. So yeah, that's the portal. I would say that we're only just starting on that. We're working on ways to make that even easier for customers as well. So that's one of the priorities for this coming year.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I have to say this when you said about points, because you know what points make? Points make prizes. For those of you who remember that from the telly, but anyway, maybe you're too young, Richard. Sorry.
I was going to jump in there, but I was like, yeah, I wasn't sure, but yeah, it definitely makes prizes. And I would say
what
that
do points make?
Right. Yeah, I would say that I do a lot of charging across our network, and got like £250 worth of points there, and maybe I'm showing my age now, and I'm looking at like the new Nintendo that's coming in a few months. I think I'll get enough points from we've got a 5 times points offer on at the moment, and I think with all the charges I do at the different site openings and visiting, I'll get enough points to probably afford a new Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it in come May, June time.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, they do all add up, and you can use them for all kinds of different things. We got Nectar as an integration with BA, so you use it for your holidays. You use it at Argos. You buy a new telly. As I said, I mentioned I'll probably get a new Nintendo on it. I also have a thing where when I go to a new store where we've got a smart charge, I always have a look at the toy cars. My I've got a 3-year-old who loves toy cars, and you can normally find like a random EV as part of the Hot Wheels set, and I use my Nectar
Oh,
points to redeem that for a couple of quid and come back and be like, hey,
oh yeah.
here's a Lucid Air, like, and they'll be like, it's a car, brilliant.
Oh, there you go. And actually, do you know what? You just saying that, in the same way as you're providing Nectar as a shopping experience in store, having that ability to build those points up, and because we do talk about the cost of public charging currently anyway, but any way of offsetting the cost of public charging, getting something back is always a Brucey bonus in my kind of book.
Yeah, and if you talk to what the Nectar team, they would say actually a lot of people, what they do with their points is they gather them all up over the year, and come Christmas, that's when they go big and they go use it on the big Christmas shop, use it for buying presents. So you can be doing that, getting your points, and we're pretty generous with our points. 5 points per pound that it spends at Smart Charge at the moment. So it's a good little earner.
No, that's a really good idea. I was going to say, so besides all of these wonderful things, what excites you about being in the new role, and kind of doing, the what you've got coming on through the next 12, 18 months? What excites you about it all?
Yeah, so it taking on operational like responsibility and accountability as well as the kind of technology side is great to kind of bring the two together. I mentioned about like always looking for ways to improve our customer experience. So yeah, making that Nectar experience even easier and for our customers, I'd say is one thing. Making it more of a valuable proposition for our customers. So looking at how we can reward our loyal customers too. Yeah, we've got some exciting things in the pipeline on that, but yeah, we're working towards that. And then maybe less customer facing, but extremely important because as a customer you'll experience it if we get it wrong, is using technology to improve our processes, and not just technology, and improving our processes generally from an operational standpoint. We have that 99% uptime like requirement from the UK charge point regs, but for us, we aim for 0% downtime. That's what we have to say. What we report on is a percentage of downtime rather than we're 99.8% uptime. It's like actually we're 0.2% downtime. So it's what we can do to make that even better, leveraging the fact that we've got a lot of colleagues, we've got a really strong UK-based contact center as well, and making those processes even more robust and more streamlined. So ultimately, customers always have a bay available.
I'm not going to argue with process improvement because that's, that's my life's work, and actually for you to recognise that doing that is important. I would not expect you not to be doing this anyway, but I know there are some CPOs that maybe don't see process improvement as maybe as an important a factor as you do. I don't know what your thoughts are on that one.
I probably can't comment on our competitors, but it's something that ultimately will allow people to do their jobs better, and work more efficiently, and deliver a better customer experience. It's maybe not as exciting and yeah as potentially doing some other things, but it actually you can make our colleagues work better, more fulfilling, and also delight our customers more with some better processes in place behind the scenes.
But actually, there is a couple of things. What you're just saying there about your colleagues, it's empowerment. So you get that level of empowerment once you get colleagues involved in making improvements. It helps them. You're more likely to retain staff because of the fact that you're getting them involved in things like that. And actually, long term, we're talking cost savings because if you improve a process that was a bit rubbish in the first place, and sometimes it can just be the fact that you've got lack of communication between people, so it's just a bit like pinball and things go backwards and forwards. And actually, if you can smooth that out, that's saving time, and it means somebody can kind of, do something else that they were trying to do, but it's taking 3 times as long. So it might not be as sexy, but long term you're looking theoretically at cost savings, because it's taking people less time to do what they were trying to do.
For sure. And, as a retail, like the grocery retail business in the UK is a tough business, right? So culturally, cost savings and looking at efficiencies is just ingrained within Sainsbury's. It's a 3% margin business. So, yeah, but you're spot on with that. It's like, that's something that we're always looking at, because process improvement empowers people, makes the job better, but delivers better experience, and it saves money. So it's all around the win. But as you say, maybe it doesn't get as much chat within the EV industry circle, because it's not as techy and shiny.
And yeah, I suppose maybe it's that, or maybe it's the fact that people kind of, and I sound like I'm being I'm generalizing, and I'm not meaning to, because there are some good CPOs out there, but actually, I've never heard anybody talk about process improvement before on this podcast, actually, as a positive thing. And I've been banging this drum for such a long time, but because I know the positive benefits of it. Actually, just, you can't always stay as you are, because if you always stay as you are, then somebody's going to do it better. So you've got to always keep trying to just chip away and making those little improvements.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because if we don't do it, then one of our competitors or someone new will enter the market and do it even better, and then we'll probably try and follow. So yeah, for sure.
So you are the things that you're doing with regards to talking to the customers at Sainsbury's, and do you know what? I'm not just saying talking, listening to them. What do you think the benefits have been? For you to move how you have done. What has that listening ear? What's that provided you with? Do you reckon?
So you kind of learn what matters to people. And so, yeah, I think, what I'd say to all those listening is, well, try us out, give us feedback. We read the comments, we read the reviews. You'll see that we respond to them. And we, if the idea is a good one, we'll act on it. I mean, one of the examples that recently we've had, and we've been hearing about it, was we used to have, it was about pre-auth amounts, for example. So we've been focusing on that from like both a process, a kind of financial risk, a commercial, and a technology standpoint about what we can do to bring that pre-auth volume down. So what we've actually done, whilst maintaining, the ability to collect revenue and not also stopping people's charge when they want to continue charging. So what we've done is we've focused and introduced something called incremental auth. So now our pre-auth value is £40. It was higher before. So that's broadly in line with the rest of our peers in the market. And we put in some technology that means once you get to close to £40, we actually then do an increment of another £20, so that we're not withholding more funds than necessarily you would spend. And then if you continue to charge, maybe you're driving we had once had a Rolls Royce. I saw a Rolls Royce in Waterlooville one time, and that's got like a 110 kilowatt hour battery. So then, we then do another increment and another increment and another increment. So we're only kind of reserving and checking that you have the money that you would be charging for, which is good. So that was something that we've been hearing from our customers loud and clear. The value was too high, but we want, what can we do to bring it down? Before we put in the technology, that would have meant actually stopping the charge at that lower value. But we worked with our payments team, did a fantastic job working with our payment service providers and with Campower as well to introduce these increments and incremental auth. So I think that's just one thing. that we do, but we regularly listen to it. I had another one. Someone just messaged me on LinkedIn and actually said, it would really help for my own kind of personal finances if you change the name of what the transactions are registered in the bank statements. We're like, oh, I'd never thought about that. I haven't been thinking about the bank statements, but because we initially started by putting Sainsbury's, then the store number, and then Smart Charge, it was kind of in her banking app, it was just saying Sainsbury's, and it was getting, because it doesn't show the full detail. So we just listened to the customer and thought, actually, we can change that and now start with Smart Charge and then Sainsbury's, and then now customers are able to see whether the payments the outgoings are Sainsbury's or groceries or with Smart Charge. So we're constantly listening to customers, and you might see us. I know our customer experience team are actually out multiple sites today, just talking to customers to understand a bit more about their motivations and why they turned left for us and not elsewhere. And you learn more things that way.
I think that's really, some of the stuff that you're just saying there about the incremental pre-auths. And actually, I was at a pay-through afternoon where we were talking about a pay-through putting they put the charts together, and pre-auths were a kind of big part of that. And we were talking about this before we started recording, weren't we? And actually, if you go to a fuel station and you're paying at pump, it'll put a £99 pre-auth on there, but it's just a holding pre-auth, isn't it? Because of the agreements with the banking sector, which actually kind of goes, all right, you put 85 quid in, so we'll put £15 straight back. But then there's kind of no, I understand the reason for pre-auths, because I know that there's going to be drivers who try and blooming get charged when they've got no money in their account. I'm sorry, but there are, somebody might be shaking their head at me, but actually, you need to cover yourselves as an organisation. But there is that, kind of pre-auths are a bit of a misnomer, aren't they? But that's to do with banking and it not being recognised as critical infrastructure. So the agreements aren't quite in place, are they yet? Am I right?
Yeah, I'd say if that's the one thing that I'd kind of want to change about like EV charging in the UK, it probably would be the pre-auth returns happening sooner, and also just kind of clearing the record about what a pre-auth is. So a pre-auth is just checking that you've got money and then reserving it. It's not leaving your account. It's just it's there, but it's just saying, in case, you're checking that there is, £40 for us at the moment, £40 in your account. You have £40, so you're going to be able to pay your bill. It's nothing different to what happens at a hotel as well. Like that's what regularly happens. And then once the transaction ends, we instantly send over, this is how much the transaction is. We say, release the £40 and debit the £28 or whatever it was from the account, and we know that will go through because you've got £40. But what we see is that that instant release message that is sent to the banks doesn't necessarily get processed, and that's where I think whether recognising it's critical infrastructure or not, but it's to do with the merchant category code, and there's my payments team would do a superb job, and it's the same payments team who worked on the petrol filling station thing. Which was actually a kind of a mandate that came from Visa and MasterCard to say, you guys, banks, you need to return this. And if there's one thing I'd change, it would be like if we could fast forward to get to that point where Visa, MasterCard and others, are saying, banks, you need, like, if this is like this code, this merchant category code for EV charging, it's a pre-auth, return it please. Yeah. Don't just sit on it and leave it unreserved, because we get calls about it, and they a lot of the time saying, why is Sainsbury's taking my money? It was like, we haven't taken your money. We've checked that you've had money, and we've then settled the transaction. We investigate it because that's our duty, to check. But 99% of the time, it's the bank has not processed that return, and it's probably because they just don't see a lot of EV charging transactions. And I worry that you kind of need to wait until we've got the weight of transactions, and then the banks will actually do something about this. So that's probably something that I'd really like to change if we could. Yeah,
Do you
if
know
we
that
can
was going to
move
be
that
my
forward.
last question? That was because you've got a
Sorry.
dash. No, don't. No, I might have to come up with another last question now. Then actually, there is a question I can ask you that's down here on my little list. Because you've got a dash, and I'm aware of that. So he's got to get back for his kids, which is perfect. Bless him. Right. So if you could choose one thing to improve, other than this, about our EV charging. So it's kind of the same question, but I'm just asking it in a slightly different way. But what other one thing would you want to change if you could do?
I think the other thing probably, which would make a big difference for customers, would be making mapping data like everywhere. We want to broadcast our data, but then there are certain vehicles that don't show charges when they exist, and that can't be good for them. That's not in their interest. They want to sell electric cars. Like, show where the electric car charges are. So trying to make sure that all the data that is available is shown. Like, we've got ZapMap does a great job of showing all the available charges, and you can integrate with ZapMap as a CPO, and we share our live availability data with them. But then other vehicle manufacturers maybe want to only show the charges that they produce, perhaps, and or that have done some kind of commercial deals with them. And we talk to them, we want to get that going, but actually they might be headquartered outside of the country, and the UK is a relatively small country in global terms. So they're talking to the third or fourth largest CPO in the UK, which is maybe the seventh or eighth biggest market for them, is not a priority, and that's kind of annoying. And I think the customer, again, like the pre-auth thing, the customer loses because they're not aware that that there's actually some charges just over there, but you're not being directed to them because the vehicle manufacturer has decided that they don't want to prioritize they want to prioritize certain networks over others.
And that's really, like you say, that's a little bit sad, really, isn't it? Because why don't just keep all of them. Don't just keep a few of them on your in-car app. If you're going to provide that information, make sure people can see it. That's the biggest thing, isn't it? Because not everybody knows about ZapMap, and not everybody knows about Octopus Electroverse, etc., etc. So actually, they're just going to rely on what they see in their car. Hopefully, they might use Google, and Google tends to have quite a lot of chargers on there. So we'll just see how it evolves, I suppose.
Yeah. I think and by the way, you can find Smart Charge on Electroverse and ZapMap and Google as well. But yeah, I think actually, it'd be great for Google to have more direct, if I'm being really nerdy about it, OCPI integrations. Whereas at the moment, you kind of publish your data into one place that then Google translates into another way, and it means sometimes it's maybe a bit more complicated than it needs to be,
Yeah.
And I like
let's like you say, let's make it simple. I keep saying it's the KISS syndrome. Keep it simple, stupid. I'm not saying everybody's stupid, but I'm just saying.
I'm glad you said that bit. The bit there, because I was thinking KISS without the second S, because otherwise it feels like you're being a bit you're insulting somebody.
No, at all. Not meaning to at all. But look, honestly, Richard, I could talk to you for so much longer, and you're not a geek, and actually it's just been lovely. I know you have to dash, so I'm just going to say thank you. We've got to spend more time chatting, and I've got to try and meet you at some of the upcoming events, because there's so many this year anyway, aren't there? So, but thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, Liz, and look forward to meeting up in person in the future.
Definitely. So to everybody watching and listening, please like, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. YouTube, audio channels, make comments, find us on LinkedIn. Thank you for listening and watching, everybody. Thanks to Richard, and I shall see you next time. Bye. Thank you for watching Electric Evolution. I really love bringing you these weekly conversations about sustainability, renewables, and building a cleaner future together. If you're passionate about positive change, please like, subscribe, and share with others who also care about these topics. You can also download our white paper, Plugging into the Future, at fullcircleci.co.uk and join the discussion on improving sustainable transport, or email me at liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks for watching. Bye.